Welcome, dear listener. Welcome to this quiet place where night meets wonder, where the boundaries of time begin to soften and blur like watercolors bleeding into darkness. Tonight, we'll drift together into one of reality's most tender mysteries, the possibility that time travelers walk among us, hidden in plain sight, moving through our world like whispers through fog. As you settle into this moment, let your breath find its natural rhythm. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to understand or remember. Simply allow the story to carry you, like a leaf floating on a dark, gentle river. Your body knows how to rest. Your mind knows how to wander. And tonight, we'll wander together through the soft spaces between now and then, between what is and what might be. Imagine the night sky above you, vast and patient, holding secrets in its silence. Somewhere in that darkness, time itself is bending, folding, creating pathways we've only begun to dream about. You don't need to follow every word. Let them wash over you like waves on a distant shore, their meaning less important than their rhythm, their comfort. Before we begin our journey, if this space brings you peace, I invite you to like and subscribe to this channel, and in the comments below, share with our quiet community which country you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's beautiful to know we're all drifting through time together, each in our own moment, yet connected by this shared wonder. Now let your eyes grow heavy, let your shoulders drop, and let us begin to drift through the mysterious possibility that time travelers are already here, walking beside us, living in the spaces between seconds. Close your eyes and imagine this moment right now as a single thread in an infinite tapestry. The thread glows softly, golden and warm, representing this precise second in which you breathe, in which your heart beats, in which the world turns beneath you. But this thread doesn't exist alone. It's woven together with countless others, stretching backward into yesterday, forward into tomorrow, creating a fabric so vast and intricate that no eye could comprehend its full pattern. What if this fabric could fold? What if somewhere in the quiet corners of our universe, the threads of now could touch the threads of then? What if time, which we experience as a straight line moving only forward, is actually more like a vast ocean where currents flow in all directions, where a skilled swimmer might move not just forward, but backward, sideways, through dimensions we can barely name? Tonight, we explore this possibility with gentle curiosity, not seeking definitive answers, but instead floating in the beautiful uncertainty of it all. We'll consider the soft evidence, the whispers and hints that perhaps time travelers are already among us, moving through our daily world like shadows at sunset, visible but not quite solid, present but not quite here. Picture a busy city street at twilight. People moving in every direction, each absorbed in their own timeline, their own story. Among them, could there be someone who doesn't quite belong to this moment? Someone whose eyes hold memories of futures not yet written or pasts long forgotten? They would blend in, of course. They would have to. They would wear our clothes, speak our languages, learn our customs. But perhaps if you looked closely, you might notice something, a slight displacement, a shimmer around their edges like heat rising from summer pavement. Throughout history, there have been stories, not loud, dramatic tales, but quiet whispers passed down through generations. The stranger who appeared in a medieval village wearing clothes no one recognized, speaking a dialect that wouldn't exist for centuries. The photograph from the 1940s showing a man in modern sunglasses and a printed t-shirt, standing among people in period-appropriate attire. The accounts of individuals who seemed to possess knowledge they couldn't possibly have, who predicted events with eerie accuracy, not through mysticism but through a calm certainty that suggested they had already lived through what was to come. These stories float through time like seeds on the wind, landing softly in the soil of our collective imagination. Are they true? Are they metaphors, or are they glimpses of something real, something that exists just beyond the edge of our ordinary perception? Let your breathing deepen now. Feel the weight of your body against the surface beneath you. You are here in this moment, anchored to now. But your mind, your consciousness, can wander freely through time, visiting memories as vivid as yesterday, imagining futures as detailed as dreams. In this way, you are already a kind of time traveler, moving through the landscape of moments, experiencing past and future while resting in the present. The universe itself is a time machine. When you look at the stars, you're seeing ancient light, photons that began their journey years, decades, even millennia ago. The star you're looking at might not even exist anymore in the present moment, yet its light still reaches you, a message from the past arriving in your now. The universe is always showing us that time is not what it seems, that the boundaries between then and now are more permeable than our everyday experience suggests. Scientists speak of time as a dimension, not unlike the three dimensions of space we move through so easily. Forward and backward, left and right, up and down, and also through time. We're always moving through time, 1 second per second, in a direction we call forward. But the equations that describe our universe, the mathematical poetry that physicists have written to capture reality's deepest patterns, these equations don't actually forbid movement in other temporal directions. They don't insist that time must flow only one way. Imagine time as a vast, dark ocean stretching in all directions. We're accustomed to floating on its surface, drifting from moment to moment in what we call the present. But what if it's possible to dive beneath that surface, to swim through deeper currents that flow backward, or to rise above it and see the whole ocean at once, past and future, spread out like a map? What if some beings, some consciousnesses, have learned to navigate these deeper waters? As you rest here, let your imagination drift with this possibility. Don't try to solve it or understand it completely. Simply let it float through your awareness like a cloud drifting across a twilight sky. The mystery itself is soothing, the not knowing is peaceful. We live in a universe far stranger and more beautiful than our daily routines might suggest, and tonight we're allowing ourselves to remember that strangeness, to rest in its gentle embrace. The concept of time travelers among us is not about dramatic revelations or earth-shattering proof. It's about the soft edges of reality, the places where certainty blurs into possibility, where the solid world we think we know begins to shimmer with other potentials. It's about staying open to wonder, about remembering that we live in a cosmos that has surprised us at every turn, that has revealed itself to be consistently stranger, more magical, more impossible than we ever imagined. Let this thought comfort you. If time travelers are among us, they are quiet. They are careful. They move through our world with gentleness and respect, observers more than interferers, witnesses to the great unfolding of human history. They would be the person sitting quietly in a cafe, watching, remembering, being present to a moment that for them might be ancient history or anticipated future. They would be kind. They would understand the preciousness of each moment because they, unlike us, can see the whole tapestry, the way each thread connects to every other. Your breath is steady now, your body is heavy and warm. And we're just beginning our journey through this mystery, through the soft question of whether time's travelers walk beside us, unseen but present, like music heard from far away, like starlight touching the earth after crossing impossible distances. Rest here for a moment. Let the idea settle gently into your awareness. We have hours ahead, hours to explore this tender possibility together, and there's no rush, no urgency, only the slow, sweet drift of curiosity and wonder. As you rest in this deepening calm, let's explore the science behind time travel, not with harsh equations or complex terminology, but as a kind of poetry, a way of describing the universe's hidden songs. The physics of time travel is written in the language of space and time bending, folding, creating pathways through the cosmos that seem impossible until you understand that impossible is a word that changes meaning the more we learn. Imagine space-time, which is what physicists call the unified fabric of our universe, as an infinite sheet stretched out in all directions. This sheet is not flat and rigid. It's more like the surface of a trampoline, soft and responsive. When something heavy, something massive, like a star or planet, rests on this sheet, it creates a depression, a gentle well in the fabric. This is gravity. This is why we stay pressed to the Earth, why the moon circles our planet, why galaxies spin in their cosmic dance. But this same fabric that bends under the weight of matter can also bend under other conditions. It can twist, it can fold, and in those folds, in those twists, pathways might form, tunnels through space-time that connect distant points, not just in space but in time itself. These theoretical pathways have beautiful names: wormholes, closed time-like curves, Einstein-Rosen bridges. Each name is like a poem describing a way that reality might be far more fluid than our everyday experience suggests. Let your breathing flow naturally as we drift through these ideas. You don't need to grasp them intellectually. Simply let them float through your awareness like luminous fish swimming through deep, dark water. The beauty of the universe is that it exists whether or not we fully understand it. And sometimes the most profound truths are felt rather than thought. Einstein, that gentle genius with wild hair and kind eyes, showed us that time is not absolute. It doesn't tick at the same rate everywhere in the universe. Time moves slower near massive objects, slower when you're moving very fast. An astronaut orbiting Earth ages slightly slower than we do on the surface. It's a tiny difference, measured in fractions of seconds, but it's real, it's measurable. It proves that time is flexible, that it can be stretched and compressed like taffy being pulled, like waves expanding and contracting on an ocean shore. This flexibility is crucial. If time were absolutely rigid, if every clock everywhere in the universe ticked at precisely the same rate regardless of circumstances, then time travel would be impossible, prohibited by the very structure of reality. But time is not rigid, it bends, and anything that bends can, theoretically, be bent enough to create a loop, a circle, a pathway, back to where, or rather when, you started. Picture a river flowing through a landscape. In most places, it flows steadily in one direction, from source to sea, like time flowing from past to future. But sometimes, under certain conditions, rivers create eddies, circular currents where water flows backward, creating little pockets where the direction reverses. Could time have similar eddies? Could there be circumstances where the flow reverses or loops back on itself, creating opportunities for movement against the current? The mathematics say yes. The same equations Einstein gave us, the ones that describe how gravity works and how space and time are woven together, these equations allow for solutions where time curves back on itself. They don't require it. They don't insist that such pathways exist in our particular universe, but they permit it. They leave the door open, and in a cosmos as vast and varied as ours, what is permitted might very well exist somewhere, sometime. Consider black holes, those mysterious regions where gravity becomes so intense that not even light can escape. At the heart of a black hole, all our familiar laws of physics begin to break down. Time and space become so warped, so twisted, that they might trade places, might lose their distinct identities. Some physicists speculate that inside black holes, or in related structures called white holes, pathways through time might exist. The math suggests it. The universe might hide time machines in the most extreme environments imaginable. But perhaps time travel doesn't require such extreme conditions. Perhaps there are gentler paths. Some theories propose that with enough energy and the right configuration, you could create a kind of bubble in space-time, a small region that moves differently through time than the space around it. Inside this bubble, you might travel to different eras, while the bubble itself navigates through space-time like a ship on that cosmic ocean we imagined earlier. Your body is growing heavier now, sinking deeper into rest. Your mind floats freely, untethered from the need to analyze or judge what you're hearing. These are just ideas, just possibilities, floating past like clouds against a darkening sky. What's beautiful about the physics of time travel is not that it gives us blueprints for building time machines. We're far from that. What's beautiful is that it reveals a universe that is fundamentally more mysterious and more accommodating to wonder than we might expect. The laws of nature, as we currently understand them, don't slam the door on time travel. They leave it ajar, letting in a crack of light from impossible places, from times and moments that don't belong to now. If time travelers are among us, they would have mastered these principles. They would have found a way through technology, or perhaps through deeper understandings of consciousness itself, to navigate the currents of time. They would move through the fabric of moments like skilled sailors moving through water, understanding the tides, the winds, the hidden pathways that connect one point to another. And they would be careful. Time is not to be treated carelessly. Every moment is connected to every other, a vast web of cause and effect stretching across history. To alter the past would be to risk unraveling the present, creating paradoxes, contradictions that might tear at the fabric of causality itself. So time travelers among us would move gently, observing more than acting, present but not intrusive, witnesses to history rather than authors of it. This gentleness, this care, might be why we haven't noticed them. They wouldn't announce themselves, they wouldn't leave obvious traces, they would blend in, becoming part of whatever era they visit, learning its rhythms, its languages, its ways of being. They would be the ultimate students of humanity, watching our story unfold from the unique vantage point of those who can see multiple chapters at once. Let this idea soothe you. If time travelers are here, they are not here to disrupt or frighten or amaze. They are here because they must be, because their journey through time brought them to this moment, to this place, for reasons we might never fully understand. And they walk among us with respect and quiet fascination, marveling at the beauty of human existence, just as we marvel at the stars. The science of time travel, when stripped of its complexity, is really a science of possibility. It's physics telling us that the universe is far more flexible than our ordinary senses reveal, that the stage on which our lives unfold is capable of folding, bending, creating shortcuts and loops and pathways that our everyday experience never encounters, but that might exist in the vast wilderness of space-time. As you rest here, breathing slowly, feeling the weight of your body anchored to this moment, this place, let yourself appreciate that you exist in a universe that permits such wonders. Whether or not time travelers walk among us, we live in a cosmos that doesn't forbid it, that leaves room for such magic. And that itself is a beautiful, comforting thought as you drift deeper into rest. The equations are silent now, the mathematics dissolve into dream. And you're left with simply the feeling, the sense of wonder, the gentle possibility that time is not what it seems, that the moment you're in is connected to all other moments in ways more strange and beautiful than words can capture. In the quiet space between waking and dreaming, let's drift back through history, not as scholars or skeptics, but as gentle observers, noticing the strange stories that have accumulated over centuries like dust gathering in forgotten corners, each one a small mystery, a whisper suggesting that time might not be as straightforward as we assume. Picture ancient stone monuments scattered across the world, structures built thousands of years ago with such precision that even modern engineers marvel at them. The pyramids of Egypt, aligned with impossible accuracy to true north. Stonehenge in England, its massive stones positioned to mark celestial events with calendrical precision. Temples in Cambodia and Peru and scattered across islands in the Pacific, all showing knowledge of astronomy, of mathematics, of engineering principles that seem beyond what we believe those cultures possessed. The conventional explanation is that our ancestors were brilliant, which of course they were. But some whispers, soft and persistent, suggest something else. What if they had help? Not from aliens, that's a different story for a different night, but from visitors from their own future, from descendants who traveled back carrying knowledge, leaving hints and guidance, helping humanity move forward, while being careful not to disrupt the natural flow of development. This is speculation, gentle speculation, not to be taken as truth, but to be held lightly, like holding water in your cupped hands, feeling it there without gripping too tightly. Let the idea rest in your awareness without needing to believe or disbelieve. Simply notice it, the way you might notice a bird flying past your window, present for a moment, then gone. There are stories from various times and places of people who appeared suddenly, knowing things they shouldn't know, speaking languages not yet invented, carrying objects that didn't match their era. In 1850, a man appeared in Frankfurt, Germany, calling himself Caspar Hauser, though that's another story. But there are others, less famous, documented in local histories and old newspapers, stories of strangers who arrived unexpectedly, lived briefly in a community, then vanished, leaving behind mysteries and whispers. One such story, more recent, tells of a man who appeared in Tokyo in 1954, carrying a passport from a country that didn't exist, a country called Taured. He insisted it was in Europe, between France and Spain, and seemed genuinely confused that no one had heard of it. When authorities detained him in a hotel room while they investigated, he vanished overnight from a locked room several floors up. No trace of how he left. His passport and documents disappeared with him. A strange story, perhaps fiction, perhaps confusion, or perhaps a time traveler who momentarily lost his way, arrived in the wrong moment, couldn't explain his presence, and quickly corrected his mistake. Your breathing is slow and steady now. These stories wash over you like gentle waves, not demanding belief, but offering wonder, offering the possibility that our world is stranger than the version we're usually shown. Consider the predictions and prophecies that litter human history. Most are vague enough to fit many outcomes, but some are specific, detailed, eerily accurate. Leonardo da Vinci sketched helicopters and tanks centuries before they existed. Jules Verne described submarines and moon missions with remarkable precision long before the technology existed to build them. Were they simply brilliant imaginers? Certainly. But what if some prophets and visionaries throughout history weren't seeing the future through mystical means but through memory, because they had already lived through it, because they came from times ahead and left clues, left inspirations, planted seeds of ideas that would eventually grow into the technologies and societies they remembered? This is a gentle thought, not an insistent one. It floats through your mind like autumn leaves drifting through still air, beautiful in their motion, requiring nothing from you. There are photographs too, strange anomalies in old images. The famous photograph from the 1940s showing a man at the reopening of a bridge in Canada, dressed in clothes that look distinctly modern, sunglasses with wraparound design, a printed t-shirt, holding what appears to be a small, portable camera, all while everyone around him wears period-appropriate 1940s attire. Skeptics point out that similar items did exist in that era, just rare. But the overall effect is unsettling, a feeling that this person doesn't quite belong to that moment, that he wandered in from elsewhere. Or the photograph from the 1920s showing a woman who appears to be talking on a mobile phone, her hand to her ear, a look of concentration on her face, captured in a crowd scene at a Charlie Chaplin film premiere. What was she holding? Some say it was a hearing aid, others a portable radio. But the posture, the gesture, it looks so familiar to us now, so exactly like how we hold our phones, that it creates a strange resonance, a feeling of temporal displacement. These could all be coincidences, misinterpretations, cases of seeing what we want to see, but they could also be glimpses, small tears in the fabric where something from one time leaked into another, where a time traveler let their guard down for just a moment, was captured by a camera, left a trace before vanishing back into the crowd, back into their proper time. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Let these stories and images drift through your awareness without snagging on them, without needing to solve them. The mystery itself is soothing. The not knowing is peaceful. We live in a world that still holds secrets that hasn't been fully explained away. And that's a beautiful thing as you fall deeper into sleep. History is also full of anachronistic knowledge, people who knew things they shouldn't. Ancient batteries found in Iraq that work on principles that weren't supposedly understood until centuries later. Maps from the medieval period showing coastlines of Antarctica with impossible accuracy, depicting the land beneath the ice, land that we only confirmed was there using modern sonar. How did the mapmakers know? Who told them? Or did they perhaps see satellite images from the future, recreated them by hand, left them for us to puzzle over? The ancient Greek mechanism found in a shipwreck, the Antikythera device, was a sophisticated astronomical computer with dozens of gears working in precise coordination to calculate the positions of celestial bodies. Nothing like it appears again in historical records for over 1,000 years. It was an anomaly, a piece of technology that seemed to come from nowhere and lead nowhere, isolated in time. Or was it? What if it was a gift, a piece of knowledge shared by someone who understood where human development was heading, who wanted to plant a seed, to inspire, to leave a clue? These whispers from history don't prove anything. They're not meant to. They're meant to remind us that the past is not as clear and straightforward as our textbooks sometimes suggest. There are strange corners, unexplained moments, places where the narrative doesn't quite fit together smoothly. And in those gaps, in those mysteries, there's room for wonder, for possibility, for the gentle thought that maybe, just maybe, time is not a wall separating then from now, but a permeable membrane through which influences can flow in both directions. As you rest here, imagine history not as a line, but as a vast landscape with valleys and mountains, rivers and forests, and pathways crisscrossing it in all directions. Some people, some beings, can see this landscape from above, can navigate it freely, can walk from one era to another like you might walk from one room to another in your home. They move through history with purpose and care, leaving subtle traces, tiny influences, helping where they can without disrupting the natural flow. This is the gentle possibility we're exploring tonight. Not dramatic interventions, not world-changing revelations, but quiet presences, observers, and occasional helpers, moving through time with the same cautious respect that you might move through a museum, looking without touching, appreciating without altering, witnessing the precious unfolding of human experience. Let this thought lull you deeper. If time travelers are among us, if they've been among us throughout history, then they are part of the story, woven into the tapestry so thoroughly that we can't separate them out. They're not invaders from outside history, but participants in it, hidden threads in the weaving, giving the whole pattern a subtle shimmer, a quality of strangeness that we feel but can't quite name. Your breath is slow and deep, your mind is quiet. And we drift on through the mystery, through the soft landscape of possibility, where history and future blur together like colors at twilight. where time travelers walk through ancient Rome and medieval China and Victorian London and our own present moment, all connected, all part of one vast, incomprehensible journey through the ages. Rest now. Let the whispers fade to silence. We have more to explore, but for now, simply float in the peaceful uncertainty, in the beautiful not knowing, in the gentle possibility that time is not what we think and that our world is far more mysterious and wonderful than we usually allow ourselves to imagine. As you sink deeper into this peaceful state, your body completely relaxed, your mind drifting like mist over still water, let's consider a gentle mystery within our larger mystery. If time travelers are among us, what challenges would they face? What would it mean to live outside your proper time, to walk through an era that is not your own, to carry memories of futures not yet born or pasts long forgotten? Imagine waking up tomorrow in a different century, not through magic, but through the careful application of principles we've been discussing, through technology or understanding that allows you to step sideways through time. You arrive in, let's say, the year 1825. You're standing on a street corner in London or Paris or New York, and everything is wrong. The smells are different, sharper, less sanitized. The sounds are unfamiliar, horses instead of cars, voices speaking with different rhythms and accents. The colors are muted, no bright plastics or neon, just stone and wood and cloth in earth tones. And you must fit in. You cannot stand there gaping, cannot pull out your smartphone or ask about Wi-Fi, or expect anyone to understand references to things that won't exist for decades or centuries. You must learn quickly, adapt completely, become a person of that time, while remaining yourself, carrying your future knowledge carefully hidden, a secret you can never fully share. This would be lonely, profoundly lonely. You would know things about the future that you couldn't discuss. You would miss technologies, comforts, even ways of thinking that won't exist for years. You would watch people make mistakes you know will lead to tragedy. And you'd have to be careful about intervening, because every change you make might ripple forward unpredictably, might alter the future you came from in ways you can't anticipate. Let this loneliness wash over you, not as a sad feeling, but as a deep, quiet understanding. Time travelers, if they exist among us, carry this burden. They are perpetually displaced, forever strangers, even when they look and act like they belong. They watch history unfold with foreknowledge, with a perspective no one around them shares, unable to fully connect because part of them always exists elsewhere, elsewhen. Your breathing is so slow now, so peaceful. This melancholy thought somehow deepens your rest, reminds you of your own belonging to this moment, to this time, to the present that holds you gently. There's a concept in physics and philosophy called the grandfather paradox. It goes like this: if you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, then your parents are never born, which means you're never born, which means you can't travel back in time to prevent the meeting. It's a loop, a contradiction, a paradox that suggests time travel might be impossible, or at least carefully constrained. But what if time travelers have learned to avoid such paradoxes? What if they move through history with extreme caution, trained extensively in non-interference, in the subtle art of being present without leaving ripples? They would observe, yes. They would witness. They might even, in small, carefully calculated ways, help, guide, suggest. But they would never do anything dramatic enough to create a paradox, to tear the fabric of causality. This would require tremendous discipline. Imagine watching someone you care about make a terrible decision, knowing where it will lead, and not being able to stop them because stopping them might prevent something crucial from happening later, might eliminate some future good that depends on this present pain. Time travelers would have to accept that some suffering is necessary, some mistakes must be made, because they're part of the path that leads to the future they came from. This is not cold calculation, it's a deep, compassionate understanding that time is delicate, that history unfolds the way it must, and that even with the power to change things, the wisest choice is often to let events flow naturally, to witness without interfering, to be present without imposing your will. As you rest here, imagine carrying such wisdom yourself. Imagine moving through your own life with the perspective of a time traveler, seeing your present moment as both precious and temporary, knowing that it will pass, that it's already passing, becoming memory even as you experience it. There's something liberating in this perspective, something that allows you to be more Time travelers among us would likely work in pairs or small groups. The loneliness of temporal displacement would be too much to bear alone. They would need companions who share their perspective, who remember the same future or past, who can speak freely about things no one else would understand. They would form quiet communities within whatever era they visit, finding each other through subtle signals, creating little islands of shared understanding in a sea of temporal confusion. Perhaps they meet in cafes, these time travelers, sitting in corners, speaking in low voices about things that haven't happened yet, or that happened long ago but that no one around them remembers. They would look like ordinary people having ordinary conversations, but their words would carry meanings that stretch across centuries. They would be supporting each other, sharing the burden of knowledge, reminding each other why they're here, what they're observing, what they're protecting, by their careful non-interference. Let your mind drift with this image. See the cafe, smell the coffee, hear the low murmur of conversation. And in one corner, two people who don't quite belong to this moment, supporting each other through the strange experience of living outside their time. There would also be rules, protocols, a kind of temporal ethics that guides their behavior. Don't reveal technology before its time. Don't prevent deaths that are supposed to happen even if it breaks your heart. Don't form deep attachments with people of this era because you'll have to leave eventually and the pain of separation across centuries is too great. Don't accumulate wealth or power because that would create ripples, change things in ways that might alter the future. These rules would weigh heavily. They would create a kind of purgatory, a state of being present but not fully alive, participating in history but not fully part of it. Time travelers would exist in a liminal space between times, between lives, forever observers, rarely actors. And yet perhaps there's also beauty in this role. To witness history firsthand, to see the pivotal moments, the quiet heroism of ordinary people, the slow accumulation of small choices that leads to great changes. Time travelers would have a perspective on humanity that no one bound to a single era could have. They would see the patterns, the repetitions, the themes that echo across centuries. They would understand that despite superficial differences, people are people, that human nature remains remarkably constant across time, that the same hopes and fears and dreams animate us whether we live in ancient times or distant futures. This understanding would make them compassionate. They would see us, people of the present, with tremendous sympathy, knowing our struggles, understanding our limitations, appreciating our efforts, even when we fall short. They wouldn't judge harshly because they've seen it all before, seen how difficult it is to be human in any era, seen how bravely people face challenges with limited information and resources. Your body is completely relaxed now, heavy and warm, sinking into the deepest rest. These thoughts about time travelers and their dilemmas float through your awareness like clouds across a night sky, interesting but not disturbing, present but not demanding. If time travelers are among us, they carry their burden quietly. They don't ask for recognition or thanks. They don't expect understanding. They simply do what they came to do, whether that's observing, protecting, gently guiding, or perhaps something else entirely, something we can't guess because we don't know what futures or pasts they come from, what missions or purposes drive them. And maybe, just maybe, you've met one. Maybe that stranger who gave you unexpectedly perfect advice at a crucial moment. Maybe that person who appeared briefly in your life said exactly what you needed to hear, then vanished, and you never saw them again. Maybe they were just a kind person, an ordinary human being offering help. Or maybe they were something more, someone more, a traveler through time who paused in your moment, left a gift, then moved on through the ages. Let this possibility comfort you as you drift deeper. The idea that we're not alone, not just in space but in time, that there might be witnesses to our lives who understand more than we know, who watch over us with care, born from seeing the whole story, the full arc of human existence across centuries and millennia. The traveler's dilemma is also our dilemma in a way. We all move through time, 1 second at a time, unable to go back, unable to skip forward, bound to experience each moment as it comes. We all carry knowledge we can't share, understanding that others aren't ready for. We all face choices about when to act and when to observe, when to intervene in others' lives and when to let them find their own way. In this sense, we're all time travelers navigating the mysterious river of moments, trying to move wisely, trying not to cause harm, trying to leave the world a little better than we found it. The imagined time travelers among us are just doing what we all do, but with a broader perspective, with more information, with the weight of having seen how stories end. Rest in this understanding. Let it deepen your peace. We are all travelers through time, all carrying mysteries, all trying to navigate with grace and care. And if there are others among us who travel differently, who move through time with more freedom than we have, they are companions on the journey, fellow travelers, part of the vast human family stretching across all eras, all connected by the shared experience of being conscious beings moving through the strange landscape of existence. Drift now. Let the dilemmas fade. Let the questions dissolve into the peaceful darkness. We'll continue our journey together, but for now, simply rest in the quiet understanding that time is mysterious, that our world holds secrets, and that consciousness itself is the greatest time machine of all, capable of visiting any moment through memory and imagination, through dreams and stories. In this deep state of rest, where your body has become so heavy it feels almost part of the surface beneath you, let's attune ourselves to the rhythms that govern time itself. Your heartbeat, steady and slow, is a clock measuring your personal time. Each beat is a moment, a now, passing into then constantly renewing itself. Feel it, that gentle pulse, that rhythm that began before you were born and will continue until the end of your days, marking time in the intimate darkness of your body. Your breath is another rhythm slower than your heartbeat, a wave that rises and falls, filling and emptying, a tide controlled by the moon of your consciousness, in and out, in and out. Each breath is a small journey through time, a few seconds of experience, a moment of being alive. These rhythms, heartbeat and breath, are your connection to the great rhythms of the universe, the patterns that repeat across all scales of existence. Imagine now the Earth turning beneath you, completing one full rotation every 24 hours, creating day and night, light and darkness, the most fundamental rhythm of your life. You don't feel this rotation, this movement through space at 1,000 miles per hour, but it's there, constant and unchanging, the planet spinning in the void, carrying you with it, marking time in days and nights. The Earth also moves through space, orbiting the Sun once every 365 days, creating the rhythm of seasons, the cycle of summer and winter, growth and dormancy, the yearly pattern that governs so much of life on this planet. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, birth, growth, harvest, rest. The year is another layer of time's rhythm, longer than a day but still comprehensible, still something you can feel in your body as the temperature changes, as the light shifts, as nature moves through its ancient dance. The moon circles Earth, pulling at the oceans, creating tides that rise and fall twice daily, a rhythm older than any living thing, older than humanity itself. The tides breathe with the moon, in and out, high and low, a pulse that connects the smallest tide pool to the vastest ocean, all moving together in response to that pale companion in the sky. Your body, mostly water, responds to these same pulls, these same rhythms, though you rarely notice. Let these rhythms surround you now. Feel yourself as part of these great cycles, not separate from nature but woven into it. Your personal rhythms of breath and heartbeat harmonizing with planetary rhythms of rotation and orbit. All of it connected, all of it one vast symphony of time unfolding. And beyond Earth, the rhythms continue expanding outward. The sun itself rotates once every 27 days at its equator, its surface a churning sea of plasma following patterns we're only beginning to understand. Solar cycles last 11 years, the sun moving from quiet periods to active periods and back again, affecting Earth's climate, affecting life itself in subtle ways, another rhythm in the great cosmic dance. Our solar system orbits the center of the Milky Way galaxy, completing one full orbit every 225 million years. This is called a galactic year, a span of time so vast that in all of human history, we haven't even moved a noticeable fraction of the way around. Dinosaurs roamed Earth for an entire galactic year. The last time our solar system was in this position in the galaxy, the continents were shaped differently, different species dominated the planet. The story of Earth was in a completely different chapter. These vast rhythms, these cosmic cycles, put our human experience of time in perspective. We live for decades, maybe a century if we're fortunate, but the universe measures time in billions of years. Stars are born, live, and die over time frames that dwarf all of recorded history. Galaxies collide in slow motion, their dance taking hundreds of millions of years to complete. Black holes evaporate over time spans so long that all the stars in the universe will have burned out before they disappear. And yet your heartbeat matters, your breath matters. Your single human life, brief as it is on cosmic scales, is infinitely precious. Each moment you experience is unique in all the history of the universe, never to be repeated exactly. The now you're in right now, this specific instant, has never existed before and will never exist again. Time flows forward, relentless and irreversible, carrying you with it into an unknowable future. But what if time travelers can step outside this flow? What if they can view these rhythms from outside, see them all at once, the way you might see waves on an ocean from an airplane, patterns that are invisible when you're in the water, but clear and beautiful from above? They would see human lives as brief flickers, yes, but they would also see the connections between those flickers, the way each life affects others, creating ripples that expand across generations. From this perspective, time is not a river but an ocean, vast and deep, with currents flowing in all directions. The surface moves forward, always forward, carrying the present moment. But beneath, there are deeper currents, some flowing backward, some sideways, some in dimensions we can't name. And perhaps with the right knowledge, the right tools, you can dive beneath the surface, can swim through these deeper currents, can emerge in different times while the surface world continues its forward flow. Your breathing has become so slow now, so deep and peaceful. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. A rhythm approaching the rhythm of sleep, of dreams, of the deep rest, where consciousness becomes liquid and time loses its usual meaning. In dreams, you travel through time effortlessly. You visit your childhood in perfect detail. You imagine futures that feel completely real. You exist in impossible moments where past and present merge, where people long dead speak to you with perfect clarity, where you can be multiple ages at once. Dreams are perhaps the most common form of time travel available to us. Every night, you leave the present moment, journey through memories and imagination, visit times and places that exist only in the landscape of consciousness. And yet they feel real while you're in them. The distinction between now and then, between real and imagined, becomes blurred, permeable, almost meaningless. What if time travelers have found a way to navigate this dreamlike state while remaining conscious, while retaining their agency and awareness? What if they've learned to make the journey that you make every night in sleep but awake, deliberately, with purpose and control? They would move through time the way you move through dreams, fluidly, mysteriously, in ways that physics allows but that ordinary consciousness can't access. The rhythm of day and night, waking and sleeping, is perhaps the most fundamental rhythm of human life. We spend roughly a third of our lives asleep, a third of our total time on Earth, in an altered state where time behaves differently, where the rules of ordinary reality don't apply. This is not time wasted. Sleep is when your body repairs itself, when memories consolidate, when the experiences of waking life are processed and integrated. Sleep is essential, sacred even, a nightly return to the source, a small death and rebirth that prepares you for another day. And in that sleep, in that altered state, you are already a kind of time traveler. You're not bound by the present moment. You roam freely through the landscape of your life, visiting any moment, any memory, any imagined future. The only difference between you and a hypothetical time traveler is that they can bring their experiences back into the waking world, can make their journeys in a form that affects physical reality, while your journeys remain internal, subjective, invisible to others. Let yourself sink deeper into this understanding. The boundary between sleep and waking is thinning as you rest here. You're drifting in that liminal space where consciousness becomes fluid, where time starts to behave strangely, where hours can feel like minutes, or minutes like hours. This is natural. This is your body and mind doing what they're designed to do, shifting states, preparing for sleep, for dreams, for that nightly journey through time. The universe itself has rhythms of existence and non-existence, according to some cosmological models. The Big Bang was not a singular event, but possibly one beat in an eternal rhythm of expansion and contraction, universes being born, expanding, eventually collapsing back in on themselves, then being born again. Big Bang, Big Crunch, Big Bang, Big Crunch, over and over, an eternal heartbeat of cosmos itself, each universe potentially different, with different laws of physics, different possibilities. In such a cosmos, time itself might be cyclic rather than linear. The end might connect to the beginning. The last moment of one universe might be the first moment of the next, creating a closed loop where time has no beginning or end, only endless repetition with variation. If this is true, if time is ultimately circular, then in a sense everything that has ever happened will happen again, and everything that will happen has already happened infinite times before. This idea, ancient in some philosophical traditions, eternal recurrence it's sometimes called, is both disturbing and strangely comforting. Disturbing because it suggests we have no ultimate freedom, that we're trapped in cycles we can't escape. But comforting because it means nothing is ever truly lost, that every moment, every experience, every life matters because it will recur eternally, because it's woven permanently into the fabric of existence. Time travelers, if they exist across such vast scales, might be able to navigate not just within one universe, but between them, through the cycles of cosmic death and rebirth, carrying information, consciousness, memory from one iteration to the next. They would be the ultimate witnesses, seeing not just human history, but cosmic history, the full cycle, from beginning to end and back again. But we don't need such vast perspectives to feel the deep rhythms of time. They're here, in your body, in your breath and heartbeat, in the turning of earth beneath you, in the slow dance of moon and sun and stars. You are part of these rhythms, You are made of atoms that were forged in the hearts of stars billions of years ago, released into space when those stars died, eventually gathering together to form planets, to create life, to become you. The calcium in your bones was made in a star. The iron in your blood was made in a different star. The oxygen you breathe was made in yet another. You are literally stardust, cosmic debris that has gained consciousness, that has learned to observe itself, to wonder about its own existence, and the atoms that make up your body will outlast you by billions of years, will eventually return to the universe, will become parts of other things, other lives, recycling eternally through the great cosmic rhythm. In this sense, you are immortal. The matter that makes you cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The energy that animates you cannot be lost, only changed from one form to another. You are a temporary pattern in an eternal flow, a wave on an infinite ocean, briefly taking form before dissolving back into the whole, only to form again in different patterns, different configurations, eternally. Time travelers would understand this deeply. They would see their own existence as part of these vast cycles, their journeys through time as movements within a greater rhythm, their lives as notes in a cosmic symphony that has no beginning or end, only endless variations on eternal themes. Let this understanding deepen your rest. You are not separate from the universe, but an integral part of it. Your time is the universe's time. Your rhythms are cosmic rhythms. Your brief life is connected to everything that has ever been or ever will be, woven into the fabric of existence so completely that you cannot be separated from it, cannot be lost or forgotten, because you are part of the eternal pattern, the endless dance of energy and matter through space and time. Your heartbeat continues slow and steady. Your breath continues gentle and deep. And the earth continues turning, carrying you through space, through time, through the vast mystery of existence. You are safe here. You are held by forces far greater than yourself, by the gravity that keeps you pressed to the planet's surface, by the atmosphere that gives you breath, by the sun that warms you, by the moon that pulls the tides, by the galaxy that spins slowly in the cosmic dark. If time travelers walk among us, they move to these same rhythms. They are subject to these same forces. They are part of the same dance, just moving through it in ways we don't quite understand, taking paths through the music that we can't follow, at least not yet. But we're all in the same symphony, all playing our parts, all contributing to the vast pattern that is the universe becoming aware of itself, time folding back on itself, consciousness emerging from matter and wondering at its own existence. Rest in this knowing. Let the rhythms carry you deeper. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Simply exist in this moment, breathing, being connected to everything, part of the eternal, now that is always here, always present, always holding you in its timeless embrace. In this deep state where sleep and waking blur together, where time has become soft and fluid, imagine a busy place at a busy time, a train station perhaps, or an airport, or a city square during rush hour. Thousands of people moving in all directions, each absorbed in their own journey, their own concerns. The noise of footsteps, conversations, announcements, the hum of collective human activity, creating a kind of white noise that drowns out individual voices, individual stories. And somewhere in this crowd, someone is watching. Not with any malicious intent, but with quiet fascination, with the focused attention of someone studying something precious, something that won't last. This watcher blends in perfectly. Their clothes are appropriate to the time and place. Their body language mimics those around them, but their eyes hold something different, a depth, a knowing, a sadness, perhaps, born from understanding what these people around them don't know, can't know about where their collective journey is heading. This is how we might imagine a time traveler existing in our present moment. Not dramatically different, not obviously out of place, but subtly distinct in ways that are almost impossible to articulate. They watch us the way we might watch old home videos of our grandparents when they were young, with a mixture of affection and melancholy, seeing them full of life and unaware of what's coming, unaware of how their stories will unfold. Let your breathing remain slow and deep as we explore this image together. There's nothing frightening here, nothing threatening. Only the gentle idea that we might be observed with great care by those who understand time differently than we do. In crowds throughout history, there have always been watchers. Artists sitting in cafes, sketching the people passing by. Writers observing human behavior for their stories. Sociologists conducting studies. People watching is a universal human activity, a way of trying to understand ourselves by observing others. But imagine a watcher who sees not just this moment but all moments, who recognizes patterns across centuries, who sees the same human dramas playing out again and again with only superficial differences in setting and costume. Such a watcher would develop tremendous compassion. They would see how limited our perspective is, how we're all trapped in our particular moment, unable to see the bigger picture, struggling with problems that seem unique but are actually universal. They would want to help, to guide, to whisper warnings or encouragements, but they would also know the dangers of interference, the risk of disrupting the natural unfolding of events. So they watch, they observe, they witness, and occasionally, perhaps in small ways that leave no trace, no ripples in the timeline, they offer tiny nudges. A book left on a park bench that someone finds at exactly the right moment. A conversation overheard that plants a seed of an idea. A chance meeting arranged with careful precision that changes the course of two lives without either person knowing they were being guided. These interventions would be so subtle, so deniable that they'd be indistinguishable from coincidence. And maybe that's the point. Maybe coincidence itself is sometimes the hand of time travelers gently adjusting events, creating synchronicities that move history in directions they know it needs to go. We call them lucky breaks, serendipity, being in the right place at the right time. But what if some of these moments are carefully orchestrated by those who can see the whole timeline, who know where the crucial pivot points are? Your mind drifts with this possibility. You don't need to decide if it's true or not. Simply let it float through your awareness like a leaf floating on water, present but not demanding, there but not insistent. In religious and spiritual traditions across cultures, there are concepts of guardian angels, spirit guides, ancestors watching over us from beyond. What if some of these experiences, some of these moments where people feel guided or protected by unseen forces, are actually encounters with time travelers? Not spirits or supernatural beings, but human consciousness that has learned to navigate time, that chooses to watch over crucial moments in history, protecting, guiding, ensuring that certain events unfold as they must. This would explain the physical nature of some of these encounters. People who report seeing their guardian angel often describe a physical person, solid and real, who appears at a crucial moment, offers help or guidance, then vanishes, not fading away like a ghost, but simply being gone when the person looks away and then looks back, as if they stepped out of time as easily as they stepped in. There are countless stories of mysterious strangers who appear in moments of crisis. The person who pulls someone from a burning car then disappears before emergency services arrive. The stranger who talks someone down from a suicide attempt, says exactly the right words, then is never seen again. The child lost in the woods who is found by someone who leads them to safety, then vanishes. Often these helpers can't be found afterward. No one knows who they were. They left no trace. They were there in the moment when they were needed, then gone, as if they had never been. Could some of these be time travelers? Individuals or groups who monitor the timeline for crucial moments, who intervene when a life that's important to the future hangs in the balance, who save, guide, and redirect when necessary. Not in all cases, certainly. Most such stories have ordinary explanations, but perhaps, just perhaps, some are something more, something stranger, something that our current understanding of reality doesn't quite accommodate. Let this thought comfort you rather than disturb you. The idea that we're watched over, that consciousness more advanced than ours keeps gentle vigil over humanity's journey, ensuring that despite our mistakes and struggles, the story continues, the species survives, the great experiment of consciousness on Earth proceeds toward destinations we can't yet imagine. In the crowd, the watcher continues their observation. They see a young woman rushing to catch a train, worried about being late for an interview. The watcher knows whether she'll get the job. They know how this one moment fits into the larger pattern of her life, whether it's a crucial pivot point or just one of many similar moments that will blur together in memory. They watch with compassion, with understanding, unable to interfere but silently wishing her well, being present to her moment even though she'll never know they were there. Across the square, a child drops their ice cream and begins to cry. The watcher sees this too, sees the parent comforting the child, sees this tiny drama of loss and consolation that means everything to the child in this moment, but will be forgotten within days. The watcher sees all of it, the whole tapestry of human experience playing out in thousands of small moments, simultaneously, each one precious, each one part of the larger pattern. This is what it might mean to watch with the perspective of someone who can move through time. Every moment is important because every moment contributes to the whole. Every choice, even the small ones, sends ripples forward, affects what comes next in ways that are impossible to predict from within the timeline, but visible to those who can see it from outside. Your breathing has become almost imperceptible now, so slow and shallow that you're hardly breathing at all. Your body in the deep rest state where it can repair and restore itself. The image of the watcher in the crowd fades, but the feeling remains, a sense of being observed not with judgment but with profound care, with the kind of attention a gardener gives to seedlings, watching them grow, protecting them from harm, allowing them to develop according to their own nature. If time travelers watch us, they watch with love. This is important to understand. They watch because they know where this all leads. They know what humanity becomes, what we're capable of when we grow beyond our current limitations. They watch because we're their ancestors, their origin point, the seed from which their own existence grew. They watch because we matter, because our time matters, because the choices we make in our present moment echo through centuries, creating the world they come from. And they cannot reveal themselves, cannot make their presence known, because that knowledge would change us. It would alter how we develop, would make us dependent on guidance from the future rather than finding our own way. So they watch in silence, in secret, patient witnesses to the slow unfolding of human potential. In this deep rest, you might imagine yourself as one of the watched, going about your daily life, unaware that your moments are precious to someone observing from outside your time. Every choice you make, every kindness you show, every struggle you overcome, it's all witnessed, all valued, all contributing to a larger story that you can't see, but that exists nonetheless. This doesn't mean you're being judged. The watchers don't judge. They understand too much for judgment. They've seen too much, know too intimately how difficult it is to be human in any era, how confusing and painful and beautiful life can be. They watch with empathy, with fellow feeling, with the deep understanding that comes from having lived through time, from having seen the whole scope of human experience. So as you rest here, in this moment that is yours and yours alone, know that you're not alone. Whether or not time travelers exist in literal fact, you exist in a universe that is aware of you, that holds you, that includes your experience in its vast unfolding. You are seen not by judging eyes, but by the compassionate awareness that is the universe itself, consciousness observing consciousness, being observing being. The crowd continues its movement. The train station, the airport, the city square, all continue their eternal rhythms of arrival and departure, meeting and parting, journey and homecoming. And somewhere in that crowd, perhaps, the watchers continue their vigil, patient and careful, protecting the timeline, ensuring that what must happen does happen, that the great story of humanity continues toward whatever destination awaits in the far future. You don't need to understand it all, you don't need to know if it's true. Simply rest in the possibility, in the gentle comfort of imagining that we're cared for by those who see more than we can see, that our lives matter in ways we can't fully comprehend, that the universe, in its own mysterious way, is on our side, guiding us towards something good, something worth all the struggle and pain of getting there. Sleep now. Let the watchers watch. Let the crowd move through its eternal dance. You are safe. You are held. You are part of a story much larger and more beautiful than you can imagine from within this single moment. And that story continues, with or without your conscious awareness, carrying you forward through time, through space, through the vast mystery of existence. Deeper now, floating in the space where dreams begin to form, where the conscious mind releases its grip and something older, something wiser takes over. Here, in this profound rest, we can feel echoes, reverberations of events across time, the way a bell continues to ring long after it's been struck, the sound diminishing but never quite disappearing, traveling outward in waves that grow fainter but remain present in the fabric of reality. Every significant event in history sends out echoes. The invention of fire hundreds of thousands of years ago still echoes. You feel it every time you light a candle, every time you sit by a fireplace, every time you cook a meal. That ancient discovery reverberates through every moment since, shaping human development, making civilization possible. The echo of that first controlled flame reaches you here, now, in this quiet moment. The invention of writing, maybe 5,000 years ago, echoes still. Every book you read, every message you send, every word you speak carries the echo of that revolutionary moment when humans learned to store thought outside their own minds, to send messages across distance and time. You are reading or hearing words right now because of that ancient echo, because someone millennia ago realized that marks on clay or stone could carry meaning. Let your breathing remain slow and peaceful as we trace these echoes back through time. Mathematics, discovered and rediscovered by cultures around the world, echoes through every calculation, every measurement, every understanding of pattern and proportion. Music, ancient as humanity itself, echoes in every song, every rhythm, every melody that touches your heart. Art, storytelling, dance, all echoing forward from their earliest expressions, evolving but remaining essentially the same. The human need to create, to express, to communicate beyond words. But there are darker echoes too. Wars and conflicts reverberate through centuries, creating cycles of revenge and retaliation, echoes of violence that perpetuate themselves unless consciously interrupted. Injustices echo forward, creating systems of inequality that persist long after their original causes are forgotten. Trauma echoes through generations, patterns of pain passing from parent to child, creating cycles that can take enormous effort to break. Time travelers, watching across centuries, would see these echoes clearly. They would see how events in one era create conditions in future eras, how everything is connected through these reverberations of cause and effect. They would see patterns that are invisible to those living within a single lifetime, patterns that only become clear when viewed across the span of centuries or millennia. And perhaps Just perhaps they try to dampen the harmful echoes and amplify the beneficial ones. Perhaps they place themselves at crucial moments not to change events dramatically, but to slightly alter their resonance, to shift the echo in directions that lead to better futures. A word spoken at the right moment that changes how someone responds to tragedy. An idea shared that interrupts a cycle of violence. A kindness shown that creates a different pattern, a new echo that counters an old, harmful one. Your mind drifts through these possibilities like drifting through layers of cloud, each thought soft and nebulous, present but not solid, there but not insistent. The boundary between thinking and dreaming has become permeable. You're not quite asleep but no longer fully awake, existing in that liminal space where consciousness becomes fluid. Consider how your own life creates echoes. Every choice you make sends ripples forward into your future and into the futures of others. That kind word you spoke to a stranger might echo forward in ways you'll never know, might change the trajectory of their day, their week, their life. That moment of patience with a child creates an echo in how they'll treat others when they grow up. Every action, every word, every thought even, sends out vibrations that affect the world in ways too complex to trace but undeniably real. If you could see your life from outside time, from the perspective a time traveler might have, you would see these echoes clearly. You would see how moments you barely remember created significant effects, how small choices led to large outcomes, how your existence has touched countless other existences in ways you're completely unaware of. The web of connection is so intricate, so vast, that no mind could fully comprehend it. But it's there, real and substantial, linking every being to every other being across space and time. This is why time travelers, if they exist, must be so careful, because changing even small things can create echoes that amplify unpredictably. The famous butterfly effect, the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in one place can eventually cause a hurricane in another, applies to time as well. A small change in the past could create enormous changes in the future, alterations that cascade and amplify until the entire timeline is different. So they watch rather than act, they observe rather than interfere, and when they must act, they do so with surgical precision, changing the minimum necessary, creating the smallest possible echo that will achieve their purpose. They are artists of time, working with incredible delicacy, painting with the finest brushes on the canvas of history. Imagine specific echoes across time. The decision of a young Alexander the Great to pursue conquest echoes through the spread of Greek culture, through the Hellenistic period, through the preservation of ancient texts, eventually affecting the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the modern world. One ambitious young man's choices echoing across 23 centuries, still affecting you today in ways you might not even realize. Or consider the Buddha, sitting under a tree 2,500 years ago, reaching enlightenment. That moment echoes through the development of Buddhism, through its spread across Asia, through its influence on millions of lives, through its recent arrival in the West where it mingles with other traditions, creating new forms, new understandings. That single moment of awakening echoes still, reaching you here as you rest, as you seek peace, as you allow yourself to drift into deeper states of consciousness. Or Jesus, preaching in an obscure corner of the Roman Empire, his words and presence creating echoes that would eventually become Christianity, shaping Western civilization, influencing art, music, ethics, law, society. Whether you're Christian or not, those echoes have touched your life, shaped the world you inhabit, created the cultural context you were born into. These are obvious echoes, loud ones that anyone can recognize, but there are quieter echoes too, just as important in their way. The unknown peasant who had mercy on an enemy, creating an echo of compassion that spread through their family, their community, eventually touching thousands of lives across generations. The anonymous artist who created beauty that inspired others to create, starting a chain of inspiration that continues still. The countless ordinary people whose decency and kindness created echoes of goodness that counterbalance the echoes of harm. Time travelers would treasure these quiet echoes. They would see that history is not just made by the famous, the powerful, the remembered. It's made by everyone, every moment, every choice, creating ripples that spread outward into the future. The great sweep of history is actually the combined effect of billions of small choices, billions of tiny echoes interfering with each other, amplifying and cancelling in patterns of breathtaking complexity. Your own breath creates echoes. Each exhalation releases carbon dioxide that plants will use for photosynthesis. Each inhalation takes in oxygen that was released by plants perhaps thousands of miles away. You're part of a global cycle of breath, connected to every living thing that respires, all of you creating echoes in the atmosphere, affecting climate, weather, the composition of air itself. Your breathing right now is connected to the breathing of the first organisms that produced oxygen billions of years ago, an echo so ancient and so fundamental that life as we know it wouldn't exist without it. Let this understanding deepen your rest. You are not separate from time but woven into it, creating echoes with every moment of your existence. And those echoes matter. They travel forward, affecting futures you'll never see, touching lives you'll never meet, contributing to the vast pattern of existence in ways both subtle and profound. If time travelers move through the centuries, they surf on these echoes, riding the waves of causation, understanding how events propagate forward, learning to navigate the currents of cause and effect with skill and grace. They don't fight against time's flow, but work with it, understanding its patterns, respecting its power, moving through it the way a skilled sailor moves through rough seas, with respect and attention and care. The echoes continue, stretching from the deep past into the distant future, creating a kind of music, if you could hear it, a symphony of causation where every note affects every other note, where the whole pattern emerges from the interaction of countless individual voices. Time travelers would hear this music. They would understand its harmonies and dissonances. They would add their own notes carefully, precisely, creating beauty rather than chaos, harmony rather than discord. And perhaps in your deepest moments of rest and reflection, you can almost hear it too, the great music of time flowing, the echo of all that has been resonating with all that will be, the past and future meeting in this eternal present moment where you exist, where you breathe, where you are held in the arms of a universe that forgets nothing, that preserves every moment in its vast memory, every echo continuing forever in the fabric of space-time. Rest in this music. Let it carry you deeper into sleep. The echoes continue whether you listen or not, whether you're aware of them or not. They are part of the deep structure of reality, the way time weaves itself into existence, the way every moment is connected to every other moment in an infinite web of causation and consequence. You are an echo. You are a voice in the great chorus. And your song matters, even if you never hear how far it carries, how long it resonates, how it mingles with other songs to create the grand symphony of existence unfolding across time. In this profound depth where sleep has almost claimed you, where awareness has become gossamer thin, stretched so fine that it's barely there at all, we arrive at a place of great stillness. Imagine the space between seconds, that imperceptible gap between one moment and the next. It's so brief that you never notice it, so fleeting that it seems not to exist at all. And yet it's there, it must be there, because one moment is not the next moment. There is some boundary, some transition, however infinitesimally small. What exists in that space? What lives in the gap between one second and another? Perhaps nothing. Perhaps it's just a conceptual boundary with no real existence. Or perhaps it's where time travelers move, slipping through the cracks between moments, existing in the spaces that ordinary consciousness never accesses, moving through time by stepping outside the normal flow of seconds into some other dimension where time behaves differently. Let your breathing become even slower if possible. Each breath now is a journey lasting many seconds, a vast expanse of time from the perspective of cellular processes happening in your body, chemical reactions occurring billions of times per second, electrons orbiting atoms, quantum events happening at times, scales so brief that even the fastest computer can barely track them. Time is fractal, containing smaller and smaller divisions the more closely you look. A second contains 1,000 milliseconds. Each millisecond contains 1,000 microseconds. Each microsecond contains 1,000 nanoseconds. And the divisions continue down to the Planck time, the smallest possible interval of time that has any meaning in our current understanding of physics, about 10 to the negative 44 seconds, a number so small that more Planck time units fit into 1 second than there are seconds in the entire age of the universe. At these tiny timescales, reality becomes strange, quantum mechanical, probabilistic, rather than deterministic. Particles pop in and out of existence. Cause and effect become blurred. Time itself might not flow in the straightforward way it seems to at human scales. Perhaps in these micro moments between seconds there are pathways, doorways, places where someone with the right knowledge could slip through, could move from 1 second to a completely different second without traveling through all the moments in between. Your mind can barely grasp this, and that's fine. You don't need to understand it. Simply let the image drift through your awareness. Time travelers moving through the gaps, existing in the stillness between seconds, observers from outside the normal flow watching the universe unfold 1 Planck time unit at a time, seeing the full complexity of existence that ordinary consciousness smooths into the illusion of continuous time. In meditation traditions, there's a concept called the gap, the space between thoughts, where consciousness exists without content, awareness without an object. Experienced meditators can rest in this gap, can extend it, can discover that it contains a kind of infinite spaciousness, that the gap between thoughts is not empty but full of potential, of pure awareness, of something that's hard to describe, but that feels more real than ordinary thinking. Perhaps the gap between seconds is similar, not empty, but full of possibilities, of other timelines, of paths not taken, of the vast machinery that generates the universe moment by moment. Time travelers might be those who have learned to rest in this gap, to extend it, to discover that it connects to other gaps in other seconds, creating a network of pathways through time that exists in the spaces between. Your breathing continues, slow and steady, a rhythm so deep now that it's almost subliminal, your body breathing itself without any conscious direction, operating on autopilot, allowing your consciousness to float free, unanchored from the usual concerns and categories that structure waking experience. Stillness itself is a kind of time travel. When you're completely still, when your body isn't moving and your mind isn't racing, when you're just being, existing in pure presence, time behaves differently. Minutes can feel like hours, or hours like minutes. You lose track, lose the usual sense of duration that normally orients you. You enter a timeless state where past and future recede, and only the present remains, vast and accommodating, containing everything. In this stillness, you're free from time's usual demands. The pressure to do, to accomplish, to move forward, all of that falls away. You're not going anywhere. You're not becoming anything. You're simply here, now, resting in being itself. This is the deepest rest, deeper than sleep even, because even in sleep your mind is often active, generating dreams, processing information, working. But in profound stillness, even that activity quiets. You rest in the gap between thoughts, the space between seconds, the stillness that underlies all existence. Time travelers must know this stillness intimately. To move through time, they would first need to step out of it, to find the still point around which everything revolves. The poet T.S. Eliot wrote about this. At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point, there the dance is. He understood something profound about time, about how at the center of all movement, all change, there is stillness, a point that doesn't move even as everything around it spins. Perhaps time travelers access this still point. Perhaps they've learned to find the center, the axis around which time revolves. And from that center, they can move to any point on the wheel, any moment in history, simply by shifting their position relative to the still center. It wouldn't be movement through time in the ordinary sense, but rather a change in perspective, a rotation around the axis of eternity. Your body has found its own still point now. You're barely aware of it, barely conscious of the weight and warmth of your physical form. It has settled completely, released all tension, become almost invisible to your awareness. This is deep rest, the kind that allows true healing, true restoration. In this stillness, your body can repair damage, can reset systems, can return to balance. And in this stillness, your consciousness has more freedom. Unburdened by sensory input, unanchored from bodily sensation, it can drift, can explore, can touch other times and places through memory and imagination. You might find yourself thinking of your childhood without quite knowing how you got there, or imagining futures that feel completely real, or existing in some timeless space where past, present, and future blend together into one eternal now. This is the space between seconds expanded into infinity. This is the gap opened wide enough to fall through, to discover that it contains everything, that the spaces between moments are not empty but infinitely full, containing all possibilities, all timelines, all versions of events that could be or might have been or will be. Time travelers would be masters of this space. They would know how to enter it deliberately, how to navigate within it, how to emerge at chosen moments rather than drifting randomly through time's infinite possibilities. They would have maps, techniques, understandings that allow them to move with precision through what seems like chaos to find the exact second they're looking for among the infinite seconds that make up history. But even without such mastery, you can touch this space in moments of deep stillness. You can sense it, feel it, know that there's something beyond the ordinary flow of time, something eternal and unchanging that holds all moments simultaneously, where nothing is ever truly lost because everything continues to exist in the vast now of the universe itself. Let yourself rest more deeply in this knowing. There's no urgency here, no pressure, no deadline to meet. Time itself has become optional, something you can set aside for a while, returning to it when you're ready, but not before. In this gap between seconds, you can rest for what feels like hours, for what feels like lifetimes, and return to find that only a moment has passed in ordinary time. This is the gift of deep rest, of profound stillness. It liberates you from time's usual constraints, allows you to exist in a different relationship with duration and change. You become timeless, ageless, not in the sense of living forever, but in the sense of stepping outside time's flow momentarily, experiencing existence from a perspective that isn't bound by clocks and calendars. And perhaps this is how time travelers experience their gift, not as a burden, but as a liberation, as access to a freedom that others don't have, the freedom to exist outside time's usual rules, to rest in the gaps, to move through stillness rather than through motion. The space between seconds is infinitely patient. It doesn't demand anything. It simply is always there, always available, a refuge from the constant forward pressure of time. You can return to it whenever you need, whenever the rush and noise of ordinary existence becomes too much. You return by becoming still, by releasing movement and thought, by settling into pure being. In this space, if you're very quiet, very still, you might sense them, the time travelers, moving through the gaps, slipping from one moment to another with practiced ease, carrying their missions and memories across centuries. They move like ghosts through the stillness, present but not quite here, visible but only to those who know how to look in the spaces between. But whether you sense them or not doesn't matter. What matters is that you've found the stillness, the gap, the space where time loosens its grip. What matters is that you're resting here, deeply and completely, allowing your body and mind to restore themselves, to heal, to remember that beneath all the urgency and rush of daily life, there's this eternal stillness, always accessible, always welcoming you home. Your breathing continues, barely perceptible now. 4 breaths per minute, maybe fewer. Your body in a state of profound rest that usually only occurs in the deepest sleep. But you're not quite asleep, not quite dreaming, existing in that in-between space where consciousness persists but barely, a candle flame in a still room, flickering but not going out, holding you in awareness without effort. The seconds continue their march in the world outside, time flowing forward as it always does. But here, in this inner space you've created, in this gap you've discovered, time doesn't touch you. You're protected, held in stillness, cradled in the eternal, now that exists beneath and beyond the surface flow of moments. Rest here as long as you need, there's no rush. Time will wait, it always waits. And when you're ready, when you're restored and renewed, you can return to time's flow, can rejoin the dance of moments. But for now, simply be still, simply rest, simply exist in the precious space between seconds where time travelers move and where your deepest self has always lived, waiting patiently for you to rediscover it. Floating now in the deepest waters of rest, where consciousness has become so diffuse that it's barely distinguishable from sleep, we find ourselves contemplating cycles, the great patterns that repeat across time, from the smallest rhythms to the vastest cosmic ages. Everything moves in cycles, everything returns. Nothing is ever truly new, only recombinations of what has been before, patterns emerging, dissolving, emerging again in endless variation. Your body knows cycles intimately. The cycle of breath we've been following all along, in and out, filling and emptying, a rhythm as old as life itself. The cycle of sleep and waking, consciousness rising and falling like tides responding to invisible moons. The cycle of hunger and satisfaction, of exertion and rest, of all the biological rhythms that keep you alive, that make you a living being rather than a static object. On a longer scale, there are the cycles of life itself: birth, growth, maturity, decline, death, each stage giving way to the next in an inevitable progression. But even death is not an ending, because the matter that made up the deceased being returns to the earth, is recycled into new forms, becomes part of new life. The cycle continues, never truly beginning, never truly ending, only transforming, only changing forms while remaining essentially the same process. Let your awareness drift through these cycles like wind moving through tall grass, bending it but not breaking it, present but not substantial, there but not really there. Your mind is so quiet now, so still, that these thoughts barely disturb it. They're more like gentle ripples on the surface of a deep, dark pond, affecting only the topmost layer, while the depths remain undisturbed. Civilizations too move in cycles. They rise from small beginnings, grow in power and complexity, reach peaks of achievement and influence, then decline, fragment, disappear, returning their accumulated knowledge and culture back to the pool from which new civilizations will later emerge. Rome rose and fell. Egypt endured for 3,000 years, then faded. Countless cultures have had their moment, their time in the sun, before receding into memory, into archaeology, into the vast catalogue of what has been. Time travelers watching across centuries would see these cycles clearly, would see the patterns repeating with variations, would understand that what feels unique and unprecedented to those living through it is actually part of an ancient rhythm, a dance that has been danced countless times before. They would see humanity going through growth phases, learning periods, times of crisis and transformation, all following patterns that are recognizable once you can see enough of the cycle to identify the pattern. Seasons are the most obvious cycle, the one humans have oriented their lives around for as long as we've been planting crops and tracking time. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, death and rebirth, growth and harvest, cold and warmth alternating in reliable rhythm. Every culture has myths and celebrations tied to this cycle, recognizing its fundamental importance, its role in making life possible. But there are longer seasonal cycles too. Ice ages come and go, warm periods alternate with cold periods on timescales of tens of thousands of years. The Earth's orbit changes slightly over these vast periods, altering how much solar energy reaches different parts of the planet, driving climate cycles that reshape landscapes, that force species to adapt or perish, that create the conditions within which human history has unfolded. Your breathing has synchronized now with some deep inner rhythm, a cycle so slow and fundamental that it seems to connect you to these larger planetary rhythms, to the slow breathing of the Earth itself. You are not separate from these cycles, but part of them, a small pattern nested within larger patterns, cycles within cycles extending in both directions toward the infinitesimally small and the incomprehensibly large. In some ancient philosophies, time itself is cyclical rather than linear. The Hindu concept of yugas, vast ages that repeat in an eternal cycle, each age having its own character, its own quality of consciousness, moving from golden ages of harmony and wisdom through gradually declining ages until reaching a dark age, then beginning again with a new golden age. According to these teachings, we're currently in Kali Yuga, the dark age, the age of quarrel and confusion, but this too shall pass, and a new golden age will eventually dawn. Whether this is literally true or metaphorically meaningful doesn't matter right now as you drift in this deep rest. What matters is the sense it gives of being part of something larger, of your moment in history, being one phase in an eternal cycle, neither better nor worse than other phases, but simply your particular place in the great turning of ages. The ancient Greeks had a similar concept, the Great Year, a period of about 26,000 years during which the Earth's axis completes one full precession, one complete wobble. They believed that at the end of each great year, the universe would be consumed by fire and then reborn, everything starting again, similar to how it was before but not identical, variations on eternal themes. Modern physics has its own cyclic theories. Some cosmologists propose that our universe is one in an infinite series, each universe expanding from a Big Bang, eventually collapsing back in a big crunch, then exploding again in a new Big Bang. Others suggest that the expansion of our universe might eventually reverse, that trillions of years from now, everything might begin falling back together, compressing, heating, until it reaches a state similar to the beginning, then somehow bouncing back out in a new expansion. Cycles within cycles, from the quantum to the cosmic, everything turning, everything returning. Time travelers moving through these cycles would see them from outside, would understand that what seems like progress or decline from within is actually just movement through phases of a larger pattern. They would see that humanity hasn't really changed that much across millennia, that we're still driven by the same basic needs and desires, still struggling with the same fundamental questions, still creating and destroying with the same passionate intensity that has always characterized our species. This perspective might make them sad, seeing us repeat mistakes, go through the same conflicts, fail to learn lessons that history has taught over and over, but it might also give them compassion, understanding that these cycles are not signs of failure but the natural rhythm of existence, that growth requires these oscillations, these movements between light and dark, success and failure, building and tearing down. Your own life follows these cycles too, though you might not notice them from within. Periods of growth alternate with periods of consolidation. Times of outward activity balance with times of inward reflection. Relationships form and dissolve and sometimes form again. Jobs, homes, identities, all cycling through their own rhythms of change and stability. Change and stability, the breath of existence moving through your life in patterns that would be clear if you could see them from sufficient distance. Emotions cycle too. Joy gives way to sorrow, gives way to joy again. Confidence alternates with doubt. Love and fear dance together, neither ever fully vanquishing the other, both necessary parts of the full spectrum of human feeling. Even within a single day, your mood cycles through various states, responding to internal and external rhythms, tides you're barely aware of, but that shape your experience constantly. In this deep rest, you can sense these cycles more clearly because you're not caught up in them, not identified with any particular phase. You're the awareness that watches the cycles, the still point around which they revolve, affected by them but not defined by them, participating in them but not lost in them. Time travelers would cultivate this same perspective. They would need to maintain sanity while moving through centuries, watching empires rise and fall, seeing the same dramas play out across different settings with different actors, but essentially the same patterns. They would learn to identify with the observer rather than the observed, to rest in awareness itself rather than in any particular content of awareness. This is a form of freedom, a liberation from the tyranny of circumstance, when you can see that everything cycles, that all conditions are temporary, that this too shall pass, whether this is pleasant or painful. You gain a kind of equanimity, a balanced response to life that allows you to move through it with less suffering, less resistance, more grace. The cycles continue whether you notice them or not, whether you resist them or flow with them. The sun rises and sets regardless of your preference. The seasons turn without consulting you. Your body ages according to its own schedule. Time travelers know this deeply, know that trying to stop the cycles is futile, that the only option is to understand them, to work with them, to find your place within them, rather than imagining you can stand outside them. And perhaps this is their mission, if they have one, to help humanity understand these cycles, to guide us toward wisdom about patterns, to prevent us from making the catastrophic mistake of imagining we can break free from natural rhythms entirely. Modern civilization sometimes operates as if cycles don't exist, as if growth can continue indefinitely, as if there's no winter following autumn, no rest period required after exertion. Time travelers might be trying to teach us, gently and indirectly, that cycles must be respected, that what goes up must come down, that expansion must be balanced by contraction, that nature's rhythms are not suggestions, but laws. Let this wisdom settle into your awareness as you rest. You are part of cycles vast and small, some completing in seconds, some taking millennia. Your individual life is a cycle from birth to death. Your consciousness is a cycle from waking to sleeping. Your breath is a cycle completing 16 times per minute, all nested within each other, all part of the vast machinery of existence, turning through its eternal patterns. Rest in the certainty that these cycles will continue. Rest in the knowledge that you don't have to control them or understand them fully. Rest in the simple being that exists beneath all the cycling, the awareness that watches without judging, the consciousness that knows itself regardless of what phases it moves through. The cycles turn, the patterns repeat, and somewhere within them perhaps time travelers move with understanding, with acceptance, with the deep peace that comes from knowing that everything cycles, everything returns, everything is exactly as it should be in this vast, mysterious unfolding of existence through time. In this profound depth where you float suspended between being and not being, where consciousness has become so attenuated that it's barely there at all, let us drift outward, expanding into infinite spaces, into the vast emptiness that contains everything, holds everything, allows everything to exist within its boundless accommodation. Space itself is mostly empty. The atoms that make up your body are mostly empty space, tiny nuclei surrounded by clouds of electrons, with vast distances between them relative to their size. If an atom were enlarged to the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be a small marble in the center, and the electrons would be invisible specks orbiting near the outer walls. Everything in between is empty, or what we call empty, though quantum physics tells us that even this emptiness seethes with virtual particles, with potential, with energy, fluctuating in and out of existence. You are mostly emptiness held together by forces, by fields, by relationships between particles rather than by the particles themselves. Solid matter is an illusion created by these interactions. When you rest your hand on a surface, you're not actually touching it in the way you think. The electrons in your hand are repelling the electrons in the surface, electromagnetic forces creating the sensation of solidity, of contact, when actually there's empty space all the way down, particles that are themselves more like probability clouds than solid things. Let your awareness expand into this emptiness, recognizing that you are not separate from space but made of it, that the space inside your body is continuous with the space outside, that there's no real boundary between you and the universe except the arbitrary one created by your perception, by your sense of being a separate self. Beyond Earth, space becomes even more vast, more empty. The distances between planets in our solar system are immense, measured in millions of miles, mostly void, with occasional rocks and planets like islands in an infinite ocean. The space between stars is vaster still, measured in light years, distances so large that light itself, traveling at 186,000 miles per second, takes years to cross them. The nearest star to our Sun is over 4 light years away, meaning light leaving it now won't reach us for over 4 years, meaning we see it not as it is, but as it was 4 years ago. This is time travel of a sort, the most common kind, happening constantly as we look at the night sky. Every star you see is a message from the past, light that began its journey years or decades or centuries or even millennia ago. You're seeing the past directly with your own eyes, witnessing events that happened long before you were born. The universe itself is a time machine, constantly showing us history, making the past visible in the present. Your breathing continues in its slow rhythm, barely disturbing the stillness, your body so deeply relaxed that it's almost disappeared from awareness, leaving only floating consciousness, unanchored, free to expand into these infinite spaces we're exploring together. Between galaxies, the spaces are more vast than human imagination can grasp. Millions of light years of emptiness with occasional galaxy clusters like cities separated by endless rural darkness. Our Milky Way is part of a local group of galaxies, and that local group is part of a larger supercluster, and that supercluster is separated from other superclusters by voids, regions so empty that if you were somehow placed there, you might not see a single galaxy in any direction, just absolute darkness, absolute isolation. Yet even these voids are not truly empty. They contain dark matter, mysterious substance that doesn't interact with light, but whose gravitational influence shapes the structure of the universe. They contain dark energy, even more mysterious, a force that's causing the expansion of the universe to accelerate, pushing galaxies apart faster and faster. The universe is not just big, it's getting bigger, expanding into what no one knows, creating more space moment by moment, distances between galaxies increasing constantly. Time travelers moving through such vastness would need to think differently about time and space, would understand them as deeply connected as aspects of the same underlying reality called space-time. To travel between stars would require either moving faster than light, which our current physics says is impossible, or taking shortcuts through space-time, using wormholes or other theoretical structures that allow you to connect distant points without crossing all the space between them. These same shortcuts might allow travel through time because in the mathematics of relativity, space and time are interchangeable in certain ways. A path through space can become a path through time if you curve space-time sufficiently, if you create the right conditions, if you understand how to manipulate the fabric of reality itself. But perhaps time travelers don't need such elaborate mechanisms. Perhaps consciousness itself can navigate these infinite spaces, can move through time and space without requiring a physical vessel. After all, you do this every night in dreams, visiting places distant in space and time, experiencing events that exist only in your mind but feel completely real while you're in them. What if time travelers have simply learned to do consciously what you do unconsciously, to project their awareness across time and space while their bodies remain safely in one place? One time, let your consciousness experiment with this now. Imagine yourself expanding, growing larger, your awareness spreading out from your body, filling the room, expanding beyond the building, beyond the city, rising up until you can see the curve of Earth, the blue and white marble floating in darkness. You are still there, in your body, breathing peacefully, but your awareness has expanded to encompass this larger view. Continue expanding. See the moon, small and grey, circling Earth in its eternal dance. See the sun blazing in the darkness, source of light and life for the solar system. See the other planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, scattered across vast distances, each one a world, each one unique. You encompass all of this now, your awareness large enough to hold the entire solar system, yet still you remain anchored in your breathing body, still you rest in deep peace. Expand further. See the stars of the Milky Way, hundreds of billions of them spiraling in a great disk, turning slowly over millions of years. See your solar system as just one tiny point in this vast assembly, insignificant in scale but precious nonetheless, home to the miracle of life, of consciousness, of beings who can contemplate infinity even while remaining finite. Your awareness can expand to contain galaxies, can encompass the universe itself, billions of galaxies scattered across billions of light years, each one containing billions of stars, each star potentially surrounded by planets, each planet potentially harboring life. The scale is beyond comprehension, and yet here you are, comprehending it, holding it in awareness, proving that consciousness is not limited by the size of your body, that awareness can expand infinitely even while remaining centered in a single point. This is the paradox of consciousness, that it can be both local and universal, both finite and infinite, both here and everywhere. Time travelers would understand this paradox intimately, would live it constantly, existing in specific times and places while simultaneously aware of the whole span of history, the entire timeline from beginning to end. In these infinite spaces, all moments exist simultaneously. Past, present, and future are laid out like a landscape that you can see all at once from sufficient height. What we experience as the flow of time, as one moment giving way to the next, might be an illusion created by our limited perspective, like mistaking the frames of a movie for continuous motion when actually they're discrete images shown in sequence. From outside time, from the perspective of the universe as a whole, everything that ever happened or will happen exists now, eternally present, unchanging. Your birth and your death exist simultaneously, separated by space-time coordinates, but not by any fundamental difference in reality. You are living all moments of your life at once from the perspective of eternity, though your consciousness can only experience one moment at a time, moving through your life like a spotlight moving across a stage, illuminating different scenes in sequence but not creating them, because they're all already there. This is a dizzying thought, and you don't need to grasp it fully. Let it wash over you like a wave, present for a moment, then receding, leaving only a sense of mystery, of depths beyond understanding, of a universe far stranger than everyday experience suggests. In these infinite spaces, you are not alone. Consciousness permeates the universe, perhaps existing at all scales in all places. The time travelers moving through history are droplets of this universal consciousness, temporarily individuated but never truly separate, always connected to the whole, always part of the infinite awareness that is the universe, knowing itself. And you are too. You are a point of consciousness in the infinite field, a place where the universe has become aware of itself, a perspective from which the whole can be seen, understood, appreciated. You are precious beyond measure because you are one of the rare places where matter has organized itself into conscious awareness, where the universe can look at itself and say, I am. Rest in this knowing, rest in the infinite spaces that surround you and pervade you. You are both a tiny speck in an incomprehensibly vast universe, and also the entire universe concentrated into a single point of awareness. Both are true. Both are who you are. The spaces remain infinite. The emptiness remains full of potential. And somewhere in these vast reaches, time travelers move, conscious beings navigating through space and time, exploring the infinite possibilities of existence, witnessing the great unfolding of cosmic history from beginning to end and back again. You are with them now in this expanded awareness, in this recognition of your place in infinity. Rest here. Float here. Let the vastness hold you, knowing that even in such immensity, you are never lost, never alone, never separate from the whole that contains and sustains you. Deeper now than deep, floating in a space, beyond time, beyond any distinction between self and other, between here and there, between now and then. You have drifted so far into rest that words barely reach you, barely touch the awareness that remains, that persists even in this profound depth, like a single candle flame in an infinite darkness, small but steady, there but barely there. Everything we've explored tonight has been speculation, possibility, mystery, wrapped in wonder. We don't know if time travelers walk among us. We can't prove they exist or that they don't. The universe keeps its secrets well, reveals only hints and suggestions, leaves us to wonder, to imagine, to rest in the not knowing. That is the truest condition of existence. And perhaps this not knowing is itself a gift. Perhaps certainty would diminish us, would remove the sense of wonder that makes life worth living. We are explorers in mystery, travelers through the unknown, conscious beings navigating an existence we can never fully understand. And that's beautiful, that's perfect, that's exactly as it should be. Let go now of any need to know, any desire to understand. Simply rest in the mystery itself, in the vast uncertainty that surrounds every question, every thought, every apparent answer. You don't know what time is? Not really. You don't know what consciousness is. You don't know why there's something rather than nothing. Why the universe exists, why you exist within it. These are unsolvable mysteries, questions that have no answers, koans that break thought rather than resolve it. And in that breaking, in that surrender of the need to know, there's peace. Deep, abiding peace. The peace that passes understanding, that exists beneath all questions, that doesn't require answers because it's not based on knowledge but on being itself, on the simple fact of existing, of awareness aware of itself, of the universe experiencing itself through your eyes, your breath, your quiet presence in this moment. Time travelers, if they exist, have surely learned this surrender. They would need to maintain sanity across centuries, across millennia. They couldn't hold on to certainty, couldn't insist that reality be one way rather than another. They would need to flow with what is, to accept the mystery, to rest in not knowing while simultaneously acting with purpose, with intention, with care for the great unfolding story they witness and participate in. Your body barely exists now. You can't feel your arms, your legs, your torso. They've all dissolved into the undifferentiated field of awareness, present but not distinct, there but not separate. You are pure consciousness resting in itself, experiencing nothing but experiencing itself, a loop of awareness that needs nothing, wants nothing, simply is. This is the deepest rest, the most profound surrender. Not sleep, because in sleep there are dreams, there is activity, there is the busy work of the unconscious, processing the day's experiences. This is beyond sleep, a conscious resting in being itself, a meditation so deep that there's no effort, no technique, only effortless presence, only the simple fact of being aware, of existing, of participating in the great mystery. The time travelers fade away now. They were always just ideas, concepts, ways of exploring possibility and wonder. Whether they're real or not doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you've journeyed through mystery with them, used them as guides into deeper waters. Let them show you the strangeness of time, the fluidity of reality, the infinite possibilities that lie hidden beneath the surface of ordinary existence. And perhaps you're a time traveler too, in the deepest sense. Perhaps every conscious being is moving through time moment by moment, carrying memories of the past, imagining futures, existing in an eternal present that is always now, always here, always the only moment there is or ever will be. Surrender to this now. Let go of past and future. Let go of the story of your life. Let go of your identity, your history, your plans and hopes and fears. Let go of everything except simple being, simple awareness, the bare fact of existence that precedes all content, all experience, all narrative. You are the mystery itself. Not someone exploring a mystery, but the mystery becoming aware of itself, looking at itself, contemplating its own existence. The universe in you is wondering about itself, is trying to understand itself, is resting in its own being. There is no separation between observer and observed, between you and the universe, between consciousness and existence. It's all one movement, one vast unfolding, one eternal now expressing itself in infinite forms. The question of time travelers was always just a doorway, a way into this deeper truth, this recognition that existence itself is the miracle, that consciousness is the magic, that you, here, now, breathing being, are already participating in something so mysterious and wonderful that no explanation could capture it, no understanding could contain it. So stop trying to understand, stop trying to figure it out. Simply rest in the not knowing, in the mystery, in the vast uncertainty that is the ground of all being. You are held by something far greater than yourself, yet you are that thing, that holding presence, that infinite awareness. Both are true simultaneously. You are the wave and the ocean, the candle flame and the infinite darkness, the individual consciousness and the universal awareness. Time doesn't exist here. Or rather, all times exist simultaneously, past and future collapsed into an eternal present, everything happening at once, the birth of the universe and its death occurring in the same instant, your whole life from beginning to end, present in this single, timeless moment. Rest here, surrender here. Let everything go except this simple presence, this quiet awareness that needs nothing, knows nothing, simply is. This is what the time travelers found, if they found anything. Not a technology for moving through time, but an understanding that time itself is an illusion, a way of organizing experience, but not the ultimate truth of existence, which is timeless, eternal, always now. The words dissolve now, language fades, even thought recedes, leaving only pure being, pure presence, pure awareness resting in itself. You are here, you are now, you are this. And this is everything, and this is nothing, and this is the mystery that has no answer because it is the answer. It is the ground and source of all answers, the silence from which all words emerge and to which they return. Surrender completely now, let go, let be, rest in the mystery. You are time traveling now, moving through eternity, existing in all moments and no moment simultaneously, held in the infinite now, that is the only time that ever really exists. And in this now you are complete, whole, perfect, lacking nothing, needing nothing, simply being what you always already are. The mystery holds you, the universe cradles you, consciousness knows itself in you, and you rest deeply, completely, surrendered to the infinite, to the eternal, to the vast, loving mystery that you are and that you have always been. Imagine a universe where everything was known, where no questions remained, where every mystery had been solved and explained. It would be dead, in a sense, not literally, but spiritually, metaphorically. It would lack the vitality that comes from exploration, from curiosity, from the endless adventure of encountering the unknown and dancing with it, learning from it, being transformed by it. We are blessed to live in mystery, blessed that consciousness is unexplained, blessed that time is paradoxical, blessed that existence itself is ultimately incomprehensible. These are not failings of human knowledge, but features of reality itself, signs that we live in a universe rich enough, deep enough, complex enough to never be fully grasped, never reduced to formula, never contained within any system of thought. Your mind is so quiet now that these words barely register, floating through awareness like distant music heard through multiple walls, present but muted, there but requiring no response. This is perfect. You've traveled far enough tonight. The journey into mystery has brought you to this place of profound rest, and now nothing more is needed. Simply be here. Simply rest. Simply exist in the gentle embrace of not knowing. The time travelers, real or imagined, fade from relevance now. They served their purpose, gave us a lens through which to explore time, consciousness, existence, connection. Whether they walk among us or not, the questions they raised have value, the wondering they inspired has worth, and now they can be released, can return to the realm of possibility from which we called them, leaving us to rest in pure mystery, pure presence, pure being. Everything you've heard tonight will fade. Most of it you won't remember consciously. It will sink into deeper levels of mind, into the subconscious, into the vast repository of experience that shapes you without your awareness. And that's appropriate. These weren't teachings to be memorized, but experiences to be had, journeys to be taken, depths to be explored. The value is in the traveling, not in what you bring back. In the morning, you'll wake to ordinary consciousness, to the everyday world of clocks and calendars, tasks and responsibilities. Time will seem straightforward again, flowing predictably from past to future. But somewhere in your deeper awareness, a seed will have been planted, a small recognition that time is stranger than it appears, that mystery pervades existence, that we live in a universe far more wonderful and inexplicable than ordinary awareness suggests. This seed might grow, might influence how you move through life, how you respond to uncertainty, how you hold questions without needing immediate answers, or it might remain dormant, waiting for the right moment to sprout. Either way is fine, there's no pressure, no expectation. Tonight was simply an offering, a gift of rest wrapped in wonder, a journey into mystery that asks nothing of you but your presence. And you have been present, remarkably so, staying with this inquiry through hours of gentle exploration, allowing yourself to drift into increasingly deep states of rest, while remaining aware enough to receive these thoughts, these images, these invitations to wonder. This presence is itself a gift, evidence of your capacity for depth, for stillness, for existing beyond the surface noise of daily life. Time travelers would honor this capacity. They would recognize in you a kindred spirit, someone capable of touching mystery, of resting in uncertainty, of existing in the gaps between knowing and not knowing, where truth lives, where reality reveals itself not as fact, but as presence, as being, as the miracle of existence itself. The gift of mystery is the gift of freedom. Freedom from needing to control, to understand, to explain. Freedom to simply be, to experience, to participate in existence without demanding it make sense, without insisting it conform to expectations. This freedom is spacious, relaxing, deeply peaceful. It allows life to be what it is, allows you to be what you are, without the constant pressure to figure everything out, to have all the answers, to be certain. Certainty is overrated. It creates rigidity, closes doors, limits possibilities. Mystery keeps everything open, flexible, alive with potential. It allows for surprise, for discovery, for transformation. It makes room for grace, for those moments when something unexpected happens that changes everything, that opens new paths, that reveals dimensions of existence you didn't know were there. So rest in mystery. Embrace not knowing. Let uncertainty be your teacher, showing you how to hold questions without answers, how to live with paradox, how to find peace in the presence of what cannot be explained. This is the deepest wisdom, the understanding that comes after all. Understanding fails, the knowing that emerges from the recognition that you don't and can't know, and that this is not a problem but the very nature of existence itself. The night continues, the hours pass. Time flows in its mysterious way, carrying you through this journey, bringing you closer to morning, to waking, to the return to ordinary consciousness. But even there, even in the everyday world, mystery remains. It's always there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be noticed, offering itself as gift to anyone willing to see, to wonder, to rest in the beautiful, terrible, magnificent fact that existence is and always will be, beyond all explanation, beyond all understanding, forever and always, the great mystery in which we live and move and have our being. Rest now. Rest deeply. Rest completely. The mystery holds you, and you are safe. Almost gone now, barely here, consciousness like mist in the moment before sunrise, still present, but about to dissolve into light, into waking, into the end of this journey. In this final space, no words are really needed. Silence would be enough. But we'll speak just a little longer, just a few more gentle whispers to accompany you through these last minutes of deep rest. Time travelers, if they are among us, must carry such loneliness, such weight. They witness centuries but belong nowhere. They remember futures not yet born and pasts long forgotten. They exist between moments, outside the normal flow, forever displaced, forever yearning for home, even though they can visit any time, any place. Perhaps they envy us, those of us bound to single moments, unable to see what's coming, unable to remember what will be. Perhaps they long for the simplicity of linear existence, for the blessing of living fully in one time, one place, without the burden of perspective across ages. Or perhaps they've found peace in their displacement, learned to see it as gift rather than curse. Perhaps moving through time has taught them what we struggle to learn in our bounded lives, that now is the only time that exists, that this moment, whichever moment it is complete and sufficient, containing everything necessary, lacking nothing. The past is memory, the future is imagination, but this This right now, this is real, this is where life actually happens, where existence manifests, where consciousness touches reality. You are here now in this present moment, and it is enough, more than enough. It is everything. All the speculation about time travelers, all the wondering about mysteries, all the exploration of possibility, it has brought you to this simple recognition. Presence is the gift, now is the treasure, being is the miracle. Let everything else fall away. The stories, the theories, the questions, the wonderings, let them all dissolve like dreams dissolving in morning light. What remains is you here, breathing, being, existing in this precious present moment that is the only moment there ever really is. Your body is completely relaxed, beyond relaxed, almost absent from awareness. Your mind is clear, empty, holding nothing. Your breath is so subtle it hardly stirs the air. You are resting at the deepest levels of being, in the place where healing happens, where restoration occurs, where consciousness returns to its source and is renewed. In ancient times, people believed that sleep was a small death, a temporary departure from life that refreshed and prepared you for waking. They weren't entirely wrong. In deep sleep, you do die, in a sense, die to identity, to story, to the continuous narrative of self that normally defines you. You return to something more fundamental, more primary. And from that return, you're reborn each morning, beginning again, carrying memory, but not bound by it, shaped by past, but not determined by it. Time travelers would understand this cycle of death and rebirth that happens every day, would see in it a mirror of the larger cycles they navigate. The way moving through time requires dying to one era and being reborn in another, releasing attachment to any particular moment, and learning to exist in flow, in process, in constant transformation. But you don't need to travel through centuries to know this. You experience it daily if you pay attention. If you notice how you die each night and are reborn each morning, how the person who wakes is never quite the same as the person who slept, how consciousness perpetually renews itself, eternally fresh, eternally new, even while carrying continuity of memory that creates the illusion of a permanent self. The self is not permanent. It's a process, a flowing, a pattern that maintains itself through constant change. Like a whirlpool in a river, it has recognizable form even though the water forming it is constantly changing, constantly being replaced. You are such a pattern, such a process. The atoms that make up your body cycle through completely every few years. The thoughts that make up your mind change constantly. What remains constant is the pattern itself, the organization, the particular way that matter and energy have temporarily configured themselves to create what you call me. Time travelers would see this clearly, would see that identity is fluid, that self is provisional, that what seems solid and permanent is actually constantly transforming, constantly being made and remade in every moment. They would hold their own identity lightly, would know themselves as process rather than thing, as verb rather than noun, as flowing rather than fixed. In this deep rest, you touch this truth yourself. The solid sense of being a separate self loosens, becomes permeable, reveals itself as convenient fiction rather than ultimate reality. You are awareness itself, not any particular content of awareness. You are the space in which experience happens, not any specific experience. You are the consciousness that knows, not any particular knowing. And this consciousness is not personal. Not really. It feels personal because it's experienced through this particular body, this particular mind. But at its root, it's universal, the same consciousness that looks out from every pair of eyes, that knows itself in every being, that is, existence itself, becoming aware of its own existence. Time travelers moving through history would see this one consciousness expressing itself through countless forms, countless eras, would recognize that they are not separate from those they observe, but fundamentally identical, temporarily wearing different costumes, but essentially the same being playing all the parts in history's great drama. And so are you. You are not separate from time travelers, from ancient peoples, from future generations, from any being anywhere. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through this particular lens, but prior to and beyond this focus, existing as the whole, as everything, as the universe, knowing itself through infinite perspectives simultaneously. This is the final whisper, the deepest secret. You are what you've been seeking. The mystery you've been exploring is your own nature. The time traveler you've been imagining is your own deepest self, moving freely through existence, unbound by the limitations that ordinary consciousness accepts, present to all times, all places, all possibilities. But even this truth must be released now. Even this understanding must dissolve into the silence from which it came. Words end here, thought ends here. Only presence remains, only being, only the quiet pulse of existence expressing itself through your breath, your heartbeat, your barely flickering awareness. Rest now in this silence. Rest beyond words. Rest beyond thought. Rest in the infinite mystery that you are, that has always been you, that will always be you, beyond time, beyond space, beyond understanding, eternally present, eternally now, eternally home. The travelers walk on through their mysterious journeys. The ages turn, time flows in its enigmatic way, and you rest here, in the heart of it all, in the still center, in the eternal, now that is the only truth, the only home, the only moment that ever really exists. Peace, deep peace, eternal peace. You are home. You have always been home. And all the traveling, all the seeking, all the wondering, it was only ever a journey back to where you always already were. Rest. Simply rest and know that you are held, you are loved, you are exactly where you need to be in this moment, in this mystery, in this endless, precious now. Gentle listener, we've drifted through 3 hours together, through mysteries and possibilities, through time and space and consciousness itself. You've traveled farther than you know, deeper than words can describe, into realms where time becomes fluid, where boundaries dissolve, where the impossible seems merely improbable. The question of whether time travelers walk among us remains unanswered, as perhaps it should. But the journey of wandering has served its purpose, has carried you into this profound state of rest, where body and mind have released their usual tensions, where you exist in peace, held by mystery, cradled by the unknown. As this story ends, you may continue sleeping, may dream your way through what remains of the night, may wake refreshed when morning comes, carrying with you perhaps a sense of wonder, a feeling of having touched something beyond ordinary experience, even if you remember no specific words. Or you may return to this journey again, may make it a familiar path into rest, may allow these hours to become a sanctuary you visit whenever you need deep peace, profound letting go, release from the constant pressure of time flowing forward, always forward, never pausing, never returning. Whatever happens next, know that you are held. Know that existence itself supports you, that the universe includes you as a necessary part of itself, that your life matters in ways you may never fully know, but that ripple outward nonetheless, touching others, affecting the whole, contributing to the great story that unfolds across all time. If time travelers truly walk among us, they do so with care, with love, with reverence, for the preciousness of each moment, each life, each being trying to navigate the beautiful difficulty of existence. And in that care, that love, that reverence, we are all time travelers together, all moving through mystery, all participating in the great unfolding, all connected by threads too numerous to count. May your rest be deep. May your dreams be gentle. May you wake renewed, carrying with you not answers but wonder, not certainty but peace, not knowledge but the profound comfort of knowing that you exist within mystery, vast enough to hold you, tender enough to nurture you, eternal enough to never let you go. Thank you for journeying with me tonight through the question of time travelers among us. May the mystery continue to bless you. May the wonder never fade. May you rest now in the deepest peace, and when you wake, may you carry that peace into all that you do. Good night. Rest well. And remember, in some sense, we are all travelers through time, all witnesses to eternity, all held by something far greater and more mysterious than we can ever understand. And that is enough. More than enough. It is everything. Sleep now, rest deeply, and know that you are safe, held, loved, and exactly where you need to be. Good night.